Alright, this video is going to be nice and short. I'm just going to talk about some of the pros and cons of a pet shop versus going through a breeder. First and foremost, I would obviously recommend going through a breeder. Problem with the breeder is, sometimes they're hard to find if you don't already know one. They can be very pricey, and sometimes they don't exactly have what you're looking for. They might have a really cool albino, expensive $150 gecko, but that's not what you want, so it doesn't really help you. That's something that pet shops do a lot better job of, is giving you a solid idea of exactly what they're going to have, when they're going to have it. You can always go in and ask, hey, when are you getting another shipment of geckos or green anoles or bearded dragons or whatever they have on display, and they'll tell you, whatever day it is next week. So that's nice. The good thing about breeders, though, is that they do, most of them do a really good job. They know what they're doing. They have a lot of good information that you can't get at pet shops. They give you a lot more in depth, and they actually care about how you take care of the gecko that they've bred for you, and they're really more open to just help you out and have a conversation with you about them. Get to know them really well as best you can. Spend some time with them. The better you know your breeder, the cheaper they're going to give you geckos and stuff. And hopefully you have a good experience with a breeder. They're really the best way to go if you're trying to get a gecko. If you are a first-time gecko buyer, I would try and find a breeder. Try and find a cheap price. Go online. Major cities tend to have like someone who runs a breeding shop out of their house, and they can help you out. So check the internet. Pet shops. Good thing about pet shops is they're a lot cheaper. They usually have more accurate prices as far as what you're looking to spend on a reptile like this. The major problem, obviously, is that they do not care for these creatures as required. They tend to keep them in litters, which is not good. You do not want that many hatchlings together after a certain period of time. The humidity, the temperatures are very commonly off what they should be. There's not really a lot of range between the hot side and the cold side of the tank. There's really nowhere for the geckos to hide. They're really kept out in the open so that people walking by can get a good look at them, and that stresses the geckos out. That's not good. And I guarantee you, if you go into any pet shop and you look at African fat tails, leopard geckos, they're going to have some kind of physical deformity. They're either going to have lost their tail once, they're going to have some kind of mouth rot, they're going to have some obvious problem with them. So just be wary. Pet shops are they're not the best way to go about getting a reptile, even though it's cheap. And also they will try and sell you stuff that you don't need. Geckos do not need UV light. They are nocturnal. They basically never or should never see the sun. They don't want to see the sun, and what people at pet shops will try and do is they will try and convince you that a reptile needs a certain thing, like a UV bulb or a heating pad or this and that, and it's not true. There's only so many things that you really need for these guys. Check out my other videos if you have any questions. Hopefully that helps. Check out the comments, whatever. Go online and research a little bit more. There's a lot of good information about geckos out there. Again, though, don't let those pet shops trick you into buying stuff you don't need, and make sure that if you do have a breeder, that you are getting what you're paying for. You're not paying too much, and that regardless where you get your gecko, make sure it's healthy. Check it out before you buy it. Try and find out a little background. Try and find out some of its feeding patterns, maybe. Try and find out, does it like sitting on the hot side or the cold side of the tank? Just small things like that. Small talk with your breeder, small talk at the pet shop or something if you have to go to a pet shop. But just learn as much as possible about your gecko that you're planning on buying. And again, if you're looking to buy first time, and even if you're just looking to buy geckos, be aware of buying a baby, because they do have a lot of problems with them. And I would definitely not recommend going to a pet shop and buying a baby gecko. That is probably the worst decision you can ever make as far as buying one of these guys. If you're going to go to a pet shop and you really want to go to a freaking pet shop, buy an adult gecko or other reptile. Do not buy a baby. I mean, it's really hard to get one of those babies from a pet shop back to health. So just make sure you get a good healthy gecko. One thing that also I didn't mention earlier, I just remembered, pet shops often do have a warranty, like about a 30-day, so it's a month. So if your gecko does have some kind of problem, you have to take it to the vet, or it dies or something, you can't get your money back, or they'll sometimes pay for vet bills depending on the case and how the severity of the problem with the gecko. Just make sure you take your time. Really do some research. Don't. This is not an impulse buy. Do not just go out and buy it because you want to have one of these tomorrow. Give yourself at least a week. Go out and buy light fixtures. Go out and buy your terrarium. Go buy her hot side rock structures and stuff like that. Make sure you got a reptile carpet, paper towels, whatever you need for substrate. And also make sure, first and foremost, that you're okay feeding live food. It sounds easy, but a lot of times those crickets are really quick, and obviously mealworms and stuff are easier, but your gecko can't live just on mealworms and waxworms. They will need crickets, and those can be kind of difficult and stressful on you trying to feed them to your gecko. So just be aware of that. It is part of the process in taking care of these guys. They are a lot of fun though. Once again, just really important that you get a healthy one, regardless of where you buy it. Just go to a breeder over a pet shop, in my opinion. Pet shops, some of them do an okay job, but again, they just really don't provide enough care and just room for these guys to properly grow and mature. Bullying occurs, so some geckos will be bigger than others. You'll notice that in a lot of pet shop litters, whereas breeders do a little bit better job of trying to equally distribute, although they are not perfect. Bottom line, just find the healthiest gecko you can. Check out my other videos. I got a video on tips on checking out healthy geckos. Check that one out now if you got any questions, and hopefully that helps. Again, really fun pets. Just want to get that tail nice and big. That's something that you look at right away when you're buying these guys. Also look at the eyes. Those are the first two things I would look at. Make sure you don't pay too much for these guys. You get the right one. Take your time. Once again, do not rush into it. They're not going anywhere. I promise you. You will still be able to buy a gecko next week. They're definitely not going anywhere. They've become really popular. A lot of people like them. The only major difference between an African fat tail and a leopard gecko, African fat tail geckos tend to be a little bit heavier. They got a little bit fatter tail. That's obviously why it's in their name. But they also tend to be a little more docile. They're not as aggressive. They're a little bit more open to handling. And I personally have never been bitten by an African fat tail gecko. Leopard geckos are, not to say that they are aggressive, but they are just slightly more aggressive. They aren't as open to handling. They are very, very calm creatures. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that compared to African fat tail geckos, they are slightly more aggressive and a little bit less reluctant to being picked up and stuff like that. I have had leopard geckos hiss at me and put their tail up in the air and shake it. They haven't bitten me, but they have hissed a few times, and I have never, this gecko right here has never hissed at me. So I kind of chalk that up to just being the difference between a leopard and a fat tail gecko. The other thing to keep in mind is that babies will do that a lot. If you try and pick them up, they will hiss. So if you're at a breeder, you're at a pet shop, and you are looking at a hatchling or a little baby, I don't recommend trying to pick it up. The guys at the pet shop, they won't know any better. They'll say, yeah, go ahead, pick the thing up, whatever. They don't know what they're doing. A breeder should know better. Don't pick up babies. It's very stressful. It's not a good idea. But again, do your research. Take your time. And they're a lot of fun. Just you can see that she's just hanging out. They like to just hang out in your hand. They're pretty good climbers. They're kind of clumsy. They don't have sticky pads. They have claws. So keep that in mind. So you don't need a cover for your terrarium if you don't want one. I would still recommend it, obviously, but you don't need one. That's about it with these guys. Just make sure you get a healthy one. Take it to a vet. vets are your friends. They're really not that expensive. $20 is not that much, especially if you have a $200 gecko that you just bought. It's really worth it, especially if you're paying a lot of money, like I just said. So go to the vet, make sure they're healthy, and that's all there is on African fat-tailed geckos. Check out my other videos, guys. Feel free to post comments. I'm open to discussion, any advice, any opinions, anything you guys have to add, feel free. Check out the other videos. I got a couple good ones on there. Diet, lighting, substrate. I got a video talking about the differences between babies and adults. Go a little bit more in depth on that. Also, look, I'm going to bring out a video on handling, I think, too. You can check that one out if you guys have any questions on how to handle these guys. Just check out the other videos. Guys, got any questions? Google everything you can. As much research as possible before you buy one of these is the best choice that you can make. It's better to learn it before than to learn it once you need to know it. So go out and do some research, and then make sure you're making a smart buy. You're not getting screwed over, not paying too much. You get a healthy gecko. You get some kind of guarantee also. Make sure you try and get some kind of guarantee when you buy a gecko that you can bring it back if there's a problem. Don't just pay $100 and walk away and never don't get a phone number or something like that. Make sure you have contact info, even if you're buying it from a friend or whatever. Just make sure that there is some way where you can, some kind of return policy if you can make such a thing happen. You just got to be careful with buying these guys, because sometimes they're not as healthy as they look.